Okay, here we go. Step-by-step instructions on how to put these together. So these are gold tips. They're really, really nice arrows. They're pretty expensive. They come with their own knock points. So step one, I'm just gonna do one for a quick little demonstration. So you want your label closest to what you're gonna have as the back of the arrow. Let's go over what you're going to need. So you're going to need a fletching jig. You don't have to have this one per se. There's cheaper ones out there. This is about $130 from knockonarchery.com. You want some fletching glue, and it's not absolutely necessary, but it's definitely helpful for getting a good primed contact. This is a primer weld pen, also from knockonarchery.com. Okay, and for these, because of the way that they're set up, I like to have a pair of linesman's pliers to help me push the knock into the arrow. So let me show you how all this is going to go together. So you get your bag of knocks, your knock bag. First thing I like to do is put the knocks in. So you start with this gold tip here. It's why they're called gold tips, I'm assuming. And I take the arrow and I put that first little rung inside of there, like so. And then I take my glue. I use tip glue to put the knocks in the tip on. So I take some of my glue and just kind of go around the ridges here. Get it coated real well because you don't want these coming back out on you. And then I line it up on my little desk here and kind of get it seated in there. And then I take a napkin and wipe off my excess. You don't want a bunch of residue on your shaft because it'll cause drag flying through the air. The next step is I take my tiny little knocking point and I will kind of start it a little bit so it's like that. And I take my linesman's pliers and I grab it on the flat side. And this is the part where you want to be really careful so you don't accidentally mess it up. And you push down on the pliers while twisting back and forth on the arrow shaft. And it slowly works its way in there until it's completely seated, just like that. All right. The next thing that you want to do, I like to have a little bit of acetone on hand. And I will put just a couple of drops on my napkin. And I mean a couple of drops. Very, very little. Because too much acetone will start to penetrate the carbon shaft of the arrow. And it will actually start to degrade the carbon very fast. But what you're doing here is where you're going to glue your fletches. You want to just give that a quick rub. Make sure it's nice and clean. And it doesn't have any carbon dust so you get a good seat. So now that that's clean, we can put this in our fletching jig and pull this off here. Boom. And that's seated in our fletching jig. So a lot of guys who are precision builders, they like lining them up at a very specific point so that way your whole set of arrows looks exactly identical. So I usually just kind of throw the first one on there, and then wherever the fletches land, I will try to make all of the rest of them look exactly like that. I do a 4 fletch design. Some guys do a 3 fletch. I have other designs where I have 8 fletches that I haven't quite got all the kinks worked out of yet. And I like to keep a couple of Q-tips on hand because when you start gluing these things in and you press them down, a little bit of glue will kind of come out. So to put these on, you take your clip here, and I have it marked. I got a little tiny black mark where I always line up the back of each fletch. So I just stick that in there at that mark. I take a primer weld pen, alright, and I go down the inside, the mating surface of the fletch. Just one quick up and down, and you're primed. And you take your glue. And actually another TikToker, his handle is he goes by Q. Nimrod Archery. Sorry, drew a blank, having a brain fart today. So he taught me the best way to do this to not get a bunch of excess is you do 4 little dashes on here. So you got to kind of play with your amounts, but I put one, it's about a 1/4 inch at the top, a 1/4 inch at the back here, and then I try to split the divide with 2 little 1/4 inch dashes. And then once I have all 4 dashes in there, I start at the back and I kind of dab the edge of the tip and try to pull that glue and just spread it out to where it's one nice and even layer all the way up and down the fletch. So now you got your glue on there. We're ready to stick it on the shaft. So this thing is magnetized on the back. So what I like to do is put it on at the top where there's a nice good distance. And then I make sure that the back of my clip is touching the metal back here. So it's as far back as it can be. And then I slowly bring it down. I bring the back down first, so as soon as it contacts, and then I pull the front down so it kind of lays down smooth, you know? So you get that on there. I press down and hold for about 15 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom. And there you go. That's a fletch on there. I take my little Q-tip and I start at the back. I give it a little dab. And then I work up the side as I slowly twist the Q-tip so it's constantly getting a fresh face. And that way you don't have a bunch of nasty little bubbles that harden up. Like, I'm sure, if you've ever seen Gorilla Glue, when it hardens, it kind of leaves a very similar residue. So you want to make sure you get that nice and cleaned up. That way, when it's all said and done, you get a really nice, clean-cut look. And that's pretty much it. You just repeat those steps for the rest of the fletches, and then you will have arrows that will end up like this. So let me know what you guys think. If you do a different style, and if you guys want to see how I wrap the arrows, let me know. Thanks.